Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Carmen Pugliafito. Welcome to Retina Synthesis. Today, we're pleased to have, again, Professor Ted Leng of the Byers Eye Institute at Stanford University School of Medicine. Welcome back to Retina Synthesis, Ted.
Well, it's a pleasure to be back here with you, Carmen.
So today we're going to talk about the intersection of artificial intelligence, neovascular AMD, and home OCT. Three interesting issues that can come together. You recently presented a paper and published a paper in this area. Can you tell us what you worked on?
Sure. Well, this paper is the latest in a series of investigations to essentially get us all comfortable with using artificial intelligence in our practices and with our patients, which we care deeply about and don't want to harm. So the home OCT made by Notal Vision has previously published two reports. The first report basically demonstrated that images acquired in the home setting were equivalent to those acquired in the clinic. So I think that's kind of table stakes, making sure the pictures on the home device were equivalent to the ones that we get in our clinics every day. So that was report number one. Report number two took three expert graders and compared their ability to discern fluid on scans with an AI and kind of did a multi-crosswise comparison. So they compared the AI to each individual reader, and then they compared the readers to each other to show inter-reader variability. And that report also demonstrated very clearly that the AI agreed with the human graders on those single OCT scans to show the presence or absence of fluid. So there's great inter-grader agreement as well as agreement between the AI and the human experts. So the paper that we just published and I presented at the Retina Society in Chicago is kind of phase 3 of this evolution, whether AI outputs would agree with human experts when you're looking longitudinally at a series of scans and looking for the change in fluid over time, multiple days. And the scans were done almost daily in the subjects, which were there 180 of them in this study. And so the study asked two questions. One, whether the AI outputs agreed with the human graders when looking for change of fluid that was clinically significant. And then two, it asked the question of whether a population-based threshold was better or if a individualized threshold was better for the set point where the algorithm would say, hey, there's a change here. So what we did was we took scans from those 180 patients over a 5-week period and had humans grade those images and then had the AI looked at them. And essentially what we found was that the AI performed remarkably. One of the common measures of AI performance is something called the area under the receiver operating curve. We had a 0.96 to 0.98 performance, essentially almost a 1, and with 1 being the theoretical limit of performance. And between the personalized threshold versus the population generalized threshold, the personalized threshold was more, had higher performance. That was the 0.981, and the population-based threshold had the 0.969 as far as the performance of the area under the curve. And when you're talking about the sensitivity and specificity, the sensitivity of the personalized threshold was 99.1% versus the population-based threshold, which was 94.4%, specificity of 89.4% for both types. So, all in all, this kind of gives us more credibility to using AI in the home setting when you're trying to detect a meaningful, activation of neovascular AMD in our patients.
Well, it's exciting. And of course, with OCT, we're getting, a large volume of digital information about activities that are very relevant to visual acuity. And the question is, will AI be valuable in the normal clinic environment as well?
Well, I think that's a question we've all been grappling with because we all know as retina specialists that we are quite efficient in clinic, and our brains are very tuned into pattern recognition and making clinical diagnoses as well as management decisions. So I think most of the AI that's been uh, researched and put through the FDA process for ophthalmology has been made more for disease detection rather than clinical decision making or decision support. So I think for us as retinal physicians, we probably need something that's going to help us lower our kind of cognitive burden, maybe save us a few seconds to minutes between patients. Something that's going to review the OCT cube, which has tens of millions of data points per cube, and flag specific slices of B scan for us to review where there might be a change. And from that, we can make our own management decisions. I think that's going to be kind of phase one. Phase two is going to be looking at similar patients over large data sets and maybe even helping us make management decisions. Maybe based on certain biomarkers the AI is able to pick up, we can decide which pharmacologic agent might be the first line agent, or even if we need to switch agents between one to another.
The network is looking at home OCT in a clinical trial. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I am just in full disclosure, I'm not part of the DRCRNet trial for Protocol AO, which is the home OCT trial. But in my understanding, they're operationalizing that versus I think a treat and extend regimen in these patients with neovascular AMD. I think that protocol is being led by our colleague down at Baylor, and looking forward to seeing what they find.
Well, it is promising. What do you think the next step is in terms of artificial intelligence as a active management tool in management of macular disease? Where should we be looking?
Well, I think I'm really excited for this home OCT product to get out into the hands of our patients and the retinal physicians all over the US to see how we actually start using it in our clinics. Are we actually going to have fewer in-person visits because of it? I think that is the expectation and the hope. As we know, all our clinics are very busy right now with a lot of patients coming in for scheduled visits with scheduled treatments. Can a personalized treatment strategy reduce the burden of visits, maybe reduce the number of injections per year? And having in-person visits just for periodic checkups as well as for the treatments that are indicated based on what the device is detecting. I think other ways that we're going to probably be using AI assistive devices is in the management of dry AMD, especially now that we have these two FDA approved complement inhibitors that we're using in our GA patients. I'm really looking forward to having more AI-based automated image analysis in our clinics where we can predict the growth of the GA, before we start therapy, maybe seeing that growth curve bend a little bit once we're initiating therapy to help keep our patients engaged and ourselves engaged, actually to believe that what we're giving is actually doing something. Because right now we just have to trust the clinical trial data that when we're giving these injections, that it's actually having the effect that they showed in those trials. But on an eye-to-eye or patient-to-patient basis, we don't have any real hard evidence, except if you want to spend more time than we each have in our clinical days to go and slice and dice the data, take a look at some GA area curves and plot it with Excel or something like that. But none of us have time for that. And I think AI is going to really help with that.
Well, this is exciting. And thanks for sharing your path-breaking work with us on retina synthesis. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you for having me.